It is indeed a pleasure to be here. Bob Zimmeister and I go way back to my time in the House of Delegates in the legislature, which, I think about these days when I have this job and think how nice that job was. It's the mayor of the District of Columbia and I were talking yesterday. We were on the phone yesterday talking about some issues, some economic development issues. And we were just both saying how nice it was where you could come up with legislation, not worry about the impact it has on jobs or anything like that, and you can just go away. When you have ours, when somebody tells me they put a new piece of legislation in, I said, okay, you create this now, what do you want me to cut on this side? And that's something, and it gets to the point of economic development. John talked about the fact that I met with you right after getting into office and the fact that we had all these problems, and we did. I mean, this is a job that I'd wanted for 8 years and wanted it in the worst way, and I got it in the worst way. But I met with you, and it was for a purely selfish reason. It was because we were in bad shape, and we were looking for partners, and we were looking for partners to do well. Because the better you do, the better we do. And that is something I wanted to get across to the men and women who I asked to help me run the government. We can't create revenue ourselves, although some members think I have a money tree in the back. I don't. If you're not doing business in Prince George's County, if you're not creating jobs, then we're not getting revenues to do the things that we need to do around education, transportation, and public safety. So it was very, very selfish on our part because I wanted to know, how can we make you want to come here? How can we make you want to expand your business opportunity? And how can we make it so that we're letting you in on the best secret in the Washington region? And that is, if you want to do work, Prince George's County is the economic engine of this Washington region. And I can say that with a straight face, even though, as the paper said a couple of days ago, when I first said it in Annapolis, everybody chuckled. They're like, oh, look at him. He's so, isn't that nice? He really likes his job. He's just saying something to keep the spirits up. Let's clap. But I said, just think, in these economic times, when the economy has collapsed around the world and around the Washington region, people are looking inward toward the federal government because it's the only thing that must stand if we're going to continue as a nation. And if you look at if contractors and builders are looking toward the Washington region, where is the area that hasn't grown the most in the last 8 years? Prince George's County. Think about it. We're right next to the District of Columbia. Whether it's the green line, the red line, the blue line, the orange line, it's the district line. It's the Prince George's County line to the district. Those metro sites have the greatest potential opportunity. If you look at office space availability, Prince George's County. If you look at workforce, we have one of the highest educated workforce in the nation. We have income here. So if you look at all those parameters that we're faced in these upcoming years, Prince George's County offers those opportunities. But it clearly is just an opportunity because we face obstacles. Carla talked briefly about one of the reasons that I brought her over. And I said this last year and I'll say it again, it's the truth. I went to Ike Leggett and I said, you know what, I'm trying to put this government together. I hear good things about your permitting process and some of the stuff you're doing. How did you do it? And he said, well, I got Carla Reed. She's great. She'll talk to your people and tell you how to get it done. I said, terrific. And then I went and stole her. I said, I couldn't understand her, so I needed to bring her in here to help me for a while. But it was because I was searching out people who can come in and help us think differently about how we approach economic development. So we got Carla. Gwen McCall thought she was going to come and hang out with me on the 5th floor. I said, sure you are. Yes, you're going to come. We're going to have a great time. I said, I just need you to do one little thing for me. This is a little place, you won't have to worry. You won't even have to leave the United States. called Economic Development Corporation. You know, I just need somebody to shake it up. If you can just go over there temporarily, and we're going to loan you out, and we'll bring you back. And then she called, she said, well, when am I coming back? I said, I'm glad you asked. Because I wanted the face of the county and economic development to look like somebody you would want to do business with. If you sit down with Gwen McCall, I watched her in a meeting the other day and said, that's why we picked you. We want you to convince people that they're missing out if they don't come here and do business with us. If they don't move their corporation right now, they don't expand it right now, they're going to miss out and somebody else is going to get their opportunity. And that's why we brought her in. And then we went to Baltimore County and we said to David Iannucci, we actually really worked him hard. We said, hey, come help us think differently about, you know, economic development. What did you guys do in Baltimore County? And David said, you know, we did this and that. And he said, you know, I'm going to be talking to the governor. I said, great. I said, come in and talk to us. And he kept coming back. And I know he's thinking like, geez, man, I need an office here. And so what he didn't realize is we had this big plan. So we approached him and we said, you know what, we're putting together this Economic Development Incentive Fund that you had talked about, and we really don't know what we're doing. So why don't you come and help us out? It's a short commute, you'll love it. Come help us. We're putting together a great team. We're going to have Carla. And he's like, short commute? I said, short commute and short hours. No, you got a young daughter. We're looking out for you. Of course, now they all hate me and his family, but we love him. And then Gwen introduced us to a young guy out of the district who was doing some planning stuff. You know, I was picking her brain, and she said, you know, Aubrey Thagger's coming over. He's going to work with me. He's going to be my special assistant. And Mike Erico and I met him the first day. You know, Mike was like, who is this person she's bringing? I said, I don't know, but it's Gwen. Let's just give her what she wants because we're going to send her over to EDC. We got to make her happy. And Aubrey kept coming in, and it's a true funny story that after a while, Mike Erico started talking. He said, you know, I found this really good person. I said, okay, who is he? He said, Aubrey Thagger. I said, isn't that the guy Gwen brought in? He's like, yeah, he's great. You know, I've discovered him, and we put together a team. Because one of the things that we wanted to do when we talked about the $50 million incentive fund was we knew at the council level they were going to say, and the papers were going to say rightly, especially after all the things that we'd gone through in Prince George's County, who is actually going to control this fund? How is it going to work? And the way that I wanted it to work, and the way that Mike Erico at the time, who was a CAO, and Brad Seaman, who's the CAO right now, wanted to work, was like a business. You know, not complicated. Make it fast, good decisions, but like a business. But we also knew that in order for me to convince the council that a former legislator who served 4 years on appropriation and ran a nonprofit of about 7 people actually could run a government and understand how to deal with their money. So I knew they wouldn't trust me, so I needed to put a team together that would actually highlight that. And that is why you have Carla, you have Gwen, you have Aubrey, and you have David. And, you know, Shelley Gross Wade, what can we say about her? She was beating me up before the primary. I was like, Shelley, I ain't won yet. But we were looking forward to having a good team to work with. And then I have, you know, unfortunately, you know, close friends of mine, you know, just want to help me get to where I want to go because they, you know, they're friends of mine. And they think, you know, I'm going to go back to my life as soon as this guy finally wins this office. I can go back to my life. And Roland Jones thought that's what was happening. He's like, Bake, you finally won. Good luck. I said, thank you. Could you come over and talk to me? Brad and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Say, you know, you do that supply diversity thing. You know, you have big conferences. How does that work? And he just started explaining. I was like, that is good. I said, well, how about this? How about you try and go over there for us a little while? Come on, the government is good. It's a short commute. I always use that. Short commute. You be with your family. Of course, they never are. And we got Roland to come over. The reason I normally start like that is to show that we were serious about where we were going. And it really, when I first started out, it made people kind of wonder whether, in fact, I had given up on what I'd run on for 8 years, and that's education and public safety. I talked nothing about economic development, or very little. Most of it was about education. What I quickly learned, and the reason we put the team is, as I said in the beginning, you can't do any of those things without having a first-rate economic development team that gets it, that gets that we need to move quickly in business, and then we need to operate the government like a business in this respect to make you want to come do business with us. And that's why the Economic Development Incentive Fund, which we're going to talk about tonight, and how it's rolling out, and I can't wait. I told him I'm so excited. I wish I was applying for one of the loans, but I can't. Because it is really a catalyst. It is not the end all, it is the beginning. It's an incentive for folks to go into areas where we think are the most competitive for us to leverage to get people to invest in us. And the reason we need to do that is, as most of you probably know, we're facing a $126 million budget deficit. If the state shifts pension down to the county, that could be somewhere around $30 to $40 million additional cost that comes to the county. Now, mind you, we've got 2 tax caps. And as I'm reminded every day when I'm in executive briefings, we've got 3 AAA bond ratings, and if I spend any more of the reserve funds, they'll be in jeopardy. So they're like, that's off the table. So we have 2 choices. Either we start laying off people and do furloughs and things of that nature, or we grow the economy. And so what I've asked our folks to do is figure out ways for us to grow the economy. And that is why the incentive fund is so important. It is why we're aggressively going after the FBI. It is why, although it's controversial and we're going to have a robust debate about it, when you talk about building a casino, which is something I'm very upfront with people, that I didn't vote for when I was in the legislature. I didn't vote for slots. For 8 years, I said, you know what, you've got to figure out some other way to get revenues. The reason I changed my mind is not just because it's the potential of getting $40 to $50 million additional revenue into Prince George's County. It was because the landscapes changed. We didn't have a national harbor. We didn't have an entertainment district that was designed for entertainment like National Harbor. We didn't have a statewide referendum where people approved gaming. And then we didn't have the opportunity to not just talk about slots, but talk about table gaming and a resort-type destination right here in Prince George's County. That is why the proposal that I have says $1 billion casino. And I had to, we had to tell folks, we're not building the $1 billion casino. Believe me, if I had $1 billion, there's a lot of people who want it. But we're demanding that it's high end, so that it does a couple of things. One, it makes sure it attracts the type of people with disposable income, but it creates the type of jobs in the county that we need. And we create the type of facility that then is going to spur other development around it. And that is why we're looking at proposing it. And it's why the proposal that I have for it's a lot different than what the General Assembly first proposed. Let me just talk about a couple of other things. The hospital. Once again, we didn't just build a hospital. We're going to build a regional healthcare facility that's going to service the southern region of Maryland. The reason that's important is because not only the jobs that you create from building the hospital and ongoing jobs, but also restaurants, retail, office space. So an entire economic development scheme as we go through the county. So everything fits. There's nothing that's standalone in the way that we do economic development. And that's the way it should be. You don't want to invest in something where you're the pioneer by yourself and it still looks the same. When we tell people to go into Suitland, that's going to be a place where we spend a lot of time. They're like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. But it does. Just think, it's one of the few places that we have in this county where you actually have about three, I think it's three federal enclaves, federal buildings. You've got a metro site there. It's right. You're right next to the District of Columbia. You have some really nice housing that's also available there. So if we put the type of energy and commitment into that area that, Doug Duncan and his predecessors did in Silver Spring, you see Suitland build up. That's what we're talking about, long-term commitment from the state, from the county, and from the federal government. Same thing with Branch Avenue. I think Branch Avenue is one of the areas that's going to explode really in a quick period of time. You're already seeing it with the work they're doing at Joint Base Andrews. You're going to see it by the work that we're doing around Branch Avenue Metro. But we're going to spend a lot of time there. And that's going to be one of the areas. Conterra. We much, people didn't like it, but when I came in, Conterra was, believe it or not, Conterra project was number 4 or 3 on our priority list for transportation funding. Here's a project that's ready to go. But because of politics, we wouldn't put it up first, and we put these other places where we were never going to do, in the lead spot. So I came in, I said, well, it doesn't make any sense. If the governor's committed to giving us $26 million, I'm taking it. It's a no-brainer to me. And we moved it up. Council members were mad. People protested. I said, the bottom line is it's going to create jobs. The ICC is here. Whether you like it or not, believe it or not, people drive on it. They ain't tearing it down. We might as well take advantage of it. I might as well get jobs coming this way rather than jobs going that way. So we moved it up. They yelled and screamed. But once, I can guarantee you, as soon as the first store opens, they will be there. It is about, and that's what this administration is going to do, we're going to take advantage of the fact of where we are in this Washington region. We're not going to apologize for it. We're going to attract businesses. We're going to work with you. We're going to try and make sure that you can grow, so you can help us grow, so you can hire more people, so you can create more jobs, so you can do more in our county. The last thing I'll talk about is our aggressive nature of going after the FBI. I've said to our federal partners that I think the next 3 federal lease space, one that they're actually paying revenues to us, should come to Prince George's County. By every indicator, we're the place where they should come. I mean, we've got a high number of federal workers that leave every day, but we also have location. And so we're going to go aggressively after the FBI. We think we got some great sites they should look at, and we're going to do what we can, provide incentives to make sure we attract them, because that's going to spur other development. I'm not, someone said to us the other day that, the jobs from the FBI, they're going to just simply move from DC to wherever they go. So that's what I'm not banking on the jobs they currently have. I'm banking on the offshoot, banking on the fact that other people, then you can come create other opportunities because we've got foot traffic for you. That's what we're looking at, and that's where we're going to put an incentive. And finally, we're going to work as hard as possible, David Arnucci, to make sure that the state, brings and builds the Department of Housing and Community Development. It is an important part of economic development out here. We've fought for a long time, those of us who are in the legislature, to make sure that we have this opportunity, and we're going to make sure that that happens here in the county, because once again, it is not about the people coming into those areas, it's about the jobs they can create outside of it. And so with that, let me close and see if there are any questions. Thank you very much. And thank you for your patience.